Looking forward to getting back into Big Sky Conference play. It was a rough 2 weeks, the way to say it. But I'm anxious to see how we fare against teams in our conference. To me, we're coming off a tough loss against Portland State. Anything that happened between this and Portland State is inconsequential to how we chase the Big Sky title. So, huge game for us on the road against a football team that's been savaged itself. That's 0-1 in the conference, and they have big designs on what they think they were going to be able to accomplish this year. So, both teams, little survival of the fittest here Saturday night.
You said this morning in the conference call that run defense is kind of requires mental desire. Why do you think, or if it has been lacking so far?
Well, I just think overall, you don't look at us specifically, but look at all run defense. It's always been a measure of how aggressive are you as the ball snapped, and how well do you use your hands to defend the spot on the field you're aligned, and then how intent are you in getting to the ball carrier. You'd really like to liken it to a stimulus response from B.F. Skinner. Red light, stop. Green light, go. If they try to, when they snap the ball, get off the block and go get the ball. And we talk defensively about hitting the ball out. We don't get enough people to the ball to cause fumbles and turnovers. That's why we're so deficient turnover margin-wise, because we're not achieving turnovers because we're not getting enough people to the ball defensively. And that's a matter of want. It's not a measure of height, weight, size, and speed, because if you go to the highest level of football in the world, which is the NFL, there's some pretty ugly dudes, pretty bad bodies playing great defense because their want is so huge.
When things aren't going well and you've got issues in special teams, just every facet, what do you concentrate on in practice?
Well, fundamentally, we'd like to have our guys dress right. We had 2 starters forget their shoulder pads. So, just to begin with, that trip down to Las Vegas was fraught with tremendous adversity, self-imposed. We lost 3 players in 6 plays Wednesday night. Brock, Hagan, and Matt Lewis off our PAT team. And all of them had a deleterious effect on our ability to be competitive on Saturday night. So it's not necessarily what you're working on in practice, it's don't injure yourself. And I don't mean injure by getting hurt, but just don't do lame stuff. And then our equipment guys didn't take the extra pair of shoulder pads. So it just accentuates it. It's just a bad trip, bad management from me down to everybody to make it so those don't become distractions. And a good football team minimizes the distractions, whether the distractions are mommy or my girlfriend or how things are going. You minimize the distractions so they're able to focus on the present. We didn't focus on the present. And the one play that typifies that was that Micah Breland made a wonderful big-time play on a 4th down stop after they went for a fake punt. And on the sideline, there was one guy who was excited about it. And I showed the team the video of it. And that the one guy, not any other coaches, not any other equipment guys, not any player that was on the sideline was excited or realized what had happened except for that one guy. So we've got to have more situational awareness to how to play our sport, not just block and tackle.
Who's happy?
Me. My video of it. Wes, am I wrong? Wes, am I wrong? There you go. One guy. It was embarrassing. I showed it to the team on Monday, and I said, if we're going to play like this, let's don't play. Because we make a big play in a critical part of the ball game. Micah Breland, who has not made a big play ever in his career, now makes the one play that catapults his career forward, and only one guy enjoys it? Come on, we got to enjoy our sport. It's a sport. We're playing a game.
Was that part of the problem, though, when you're in the midst of losing? It's hard to keep the enjoyment.
Oh, I don't know if it's hard to keep the enjoyment. I just think we don't have a situational awareness as a football team. I've taken some things for granted as a head coach that our guys were through the hump, that we were over this part in our program. Now we're not. I had to go back on Monday and have a sideline decorum training session. We actually practiced cheering Monday night.
I'm sorry, I'd like to know more about the sideline training decorum.
Where do you sit? What do you do when you're not in the ball game? Where do you stand? Where do you move during the game? A couple times during the game on Saturday night, we were calling for players who should have been in a certain area, the bench area, and they were completely on the other end. At 1:35 a.m., I opened up my the elevator to go down and get my wife because she couldn't find her hotel room because the hotel was so complex. So I get out of bed, pull on my gear, go downstairs, open up the elevator door. There's one of my players standing there with 2 bags of barbecue. So we had more issues than just blocking and tackling Saturday that are all corrected now. We'll play much better this Saturday.
Like Cal Poly, the game last year, one of the best football games that I've seen, one of the best atmospheres that I've seen. They've played a brutal early part of the schedule for them. What do you see? You watch them on tape this year. Are they still the same pounded out, let's try and beat you down physically type team that we saw last year?
Yeah, they lost to Arizona State 28-21. It was 21-21 throughout the bulk of the game. Their running back and quarterback situation is outstanding. Their offensive line plays great. They've given us some huge plays defensively with bad eyes early in the game, and they have suffered the ignominy of being behind by 2 scores, which is for an option team is almost a near catastrophe. They did it both against Northern Iowa and against Montana State. So a 2-score lead really is, they don't like. And if we can get a 2-score lead, then obviously we got a shot. But we've got to take an attitude a lot like, we consider ourselves a fast-paced, high-paced, scoring efficient offense. We've got to be able to go through the game and play like TCU did last week, 750 yards and 1 punt. We punt a bunch of times Saturday night. We can't be successful. So the onus is on the defense to play as well as they can. We know we're a little wounded defensively. We were wounded before the season, as the season began. Before we got to September 1st, we knew what our situation was. We'd lost 2 starting all-conference caliber players, along with a guy who was projected to be a starter at defensive line who was ineligible. So that's 3 starters. We lost a backup linebacker that's a great player. We've lost a backup running back now that's also a great player on kick teams. Those have had a deleterious or just a tremendous adverse effect on our kick teams all the way down to the bottom. So we know kick teams are wounded. So offensively, we got to pick up the slack because we have 9 starters back on offense. And for us to win the way we won last year is to get a 2-score lead and then hang on for dear life because they're come storming back. And what happened to us last year, that was disappointed me last year, is that we didn't keep up the offensive pace. We ended up scoring on our first opening drives, get a 2-score lead, and then we punted 6 times. We will not win on Saturday night if we punt 6 times. We will not win. We cannot punt the ball in this offense. It's crazy. TCU can do it. We can do it. Texas Tech can do it. We can do it. Our goal offensively is to score every possession, period. We're getting into too many times where we have to punt the ball. We're not averaging enough in our run game. We're not punching anybody off the ball. We are not able to convert on 3rd downs. We're one of the worst teams in the conference on 3rd down. And 4th down, which is a go-forward deal in our situation, we're like 3 out of 12 on 4th down. And we called plays last week on 4th down. We called a follow play, and the quarterback threw the ball to the wrong guy. So we've got to have great improvement offensively to help our defense overcome its early season losses and to certainly protect our kick teams who are just gutted by the fact that so many guys are missing.
Mike, is it more mental or physical right now, mistakes?
Well, it's all mental. Isn't a mistake all mental? It's all physical. If it's a physical mistake, that's commission. We don't worry about that. But the critical errors, our number 1 goal this week, on Monday we said, reduce critical errors. And we've got veteran players making critical errors, and that's my responsibility. Make sure that we're calling plays offensively and defensively that our veteran players can handle so they're not making the critical errors.
Has the struggles in the running game more a product of offensive line health, or is it performance?
We're not punching anybody off the ball. We target wrong sometimes. X actually played well. We got into a little bit of rhythm in our run game, even though we didn't get any points out of it, though, in the 3rd quarter. And but we're still a pass-run team. We're not run-pass. We're not ever going to bury our head in the sand and be that run-first team. We've got an excellent core of tight ends who are on the field a lot, and they've got to help us be able to expand the surface and drive people off the ball. Yeah, we're not getting enough out of a running game, but one of the parts of our running game was we wanted to protect X to this point in the season. X is 100% healthy, ready to go. X and our offensive front should be a big factor in our succession down the field on Saturday, as opposed to having to rely on a quick pass the whole way down the field.
Coach, last year you played well on the road. Does it feel like the last 2 weeks have wiped out any momentum of getting over those road woes?
Well on the road last year against Utah, and Utah State's a little different than well on the road this year against Boise State and UNLV.
Washington,
Yeah,
offensively, Montana State.
Yeah, I wouldn't say we played well offensively. We didn't play great defensively. So we played okay on the road. We made too many mistakes to win on the road last year in both those two games. So we're on the road in conference this year against a football team that's really itching for a win. A team that was my preseason favorite to win the conference championship, especially because their quarterback plays well. So last year's last year, and this year's this year. And they're only related by memory.
Is there? Go ahead. Is Terrence Curry still out? Terrence Curry.
Terrence Curry.
Is he still-
He was partially available yesterday. Hopefully he'll be a little more available today. Chase Collins has played excellent in his place at right tackle. He's really played pretty darn well for a redshirt sophomore.
What's the mentality going in this game after two pretty bad losses? Is it kind of demoralizing for them? What's their attitude?
I think when you're outscored 52-0 and then you lose 80-8, you start to chew on yourself a little bit. Everybody does. The only thing that will fix it is to play better at each position. Control what you control.
Did you expect it to be that bad on Saturday?
After Wednesday night, I could feel it. As a head coach, I could tell when it's going sideways. And it went sideways in so many other ways on the trip that there's, our third play offensively, we throw to a veteran tight end who's wide open. He's running down the crease and he fumbles. Okay, all right. Our opening kickoff, again, the kickoff return team we kick the ball short. We kick the ball in the middle too far, and it's a two-way go in the return, and they start off 90 feet away. You cannot. We've got to find, and then we lost our kicker, who's also our roll punter. So if you really want to talk about a concern for Saturday, who's kicking and who's punting and how are we going to do? We've had 2 field goals blocked in 2 consecutive games. We've now had a punt blocked, and we've had a punt that we dropped last week when it was 21-0. We just dropped the ball and barely touched it with our foot, and then got a punt jammed Saturday night because our traditional punter, who's in his first college game, is taking 4 steps, a la David Harrington. There's no such thing as a 4-step punter. When you go in your backyard and you punt, you take 4 steps. When you punt in college or pro football, you take 2.5 steps. He took 4 steps, and after his first punt, I said, "It's coming. If you don't speed up, it's coming." I hate to feel like I'm a prophet, but I could smell it coming because you can't pass block all the way back to the punter. So what we do in our kicking game this week is probably my greatest concern, more concern than our run defense, more concern than our offense's inability or lack of scoring ability in these last 2 ball games. So we got a lot of concerns as we get on the plane.
How do you fix your tackling? I think it was on the blocked field goal. The guy kind of just did whatever he
Those
wanted.
are offensive linemen trying to tackle. They play offensive line for a reason. Don't get the field goal blocked. We don't have those guys out there to play defense. Excellent effort by Ty Wright and Josh Cook to prevent the touchdown. And Zach, of course, got rolled up and laid there in a crumpled up position. That was about as sad a play as I've ever seen. But it was such a fundamental error by the left guard on the PAT team. It's an omission by the head coach that we didn't have that fixed before we went on the field. And I'm man enough to say it. That blame and responsibility lies with me. We got it fixed now, so hopefully we'll get a PAT block.
On the run defense, what is holding the Bengals back? Is it lack of execution, lack of tackling?
Like John McKay said, they asked John McKay when he was coach at Tampa Bay. Do you guys remember this line?
Yep.
Coach, how do you feel about your execution? What did he say? I'm all for it. For us, it's just the fundamentals. And I said it after the game. You and I were talking about it. Pad level, footwork, handwork, evading the block. If you play with your eyes over the top, they're going to drive you off the ball. And if you can't get off the block, you can't make the tackle. Cody Sorensen made 7 consecutive tackles in the 3rd quarter. That's our free safety. That means that nose tackle, defensive tackle, a linebacker, outside backer, strong safety, and corner whiffed because he's the last line. Thank God Cody played, or they'd have scored every single time they snapped the ball. And if you do the math, and they ran 77 plays and scored 77 touchdowns, they would have had 500 points. So holding them to 80 was pretty good considering Cody was making all the tackles. But exactly, it's such a fundamental, basic level of what we're supposed to be doing on defense that aghast that we are not able to do it better. I'm not distraught, but I am absolutely responsible for making sure we play better defensively, just against the run.
Right there, what you just said, we talked about so many times in the first 3 years. Do you feel time warped back to that time? Like that you've got your defense has gone backwards?
I hope not. It's a fair question, and I hope not.
Anything else, guys? All right, thank you.
I'm sorry. Yeah. When things are going south and you're battling negative momentum, do you ever? At what point do you try and make radical changes, or do you ever do that?
We did. Yeah, we did in our game plan offensively. At the 10-minute mark of the, between the first and second quarter, we shelved our game plan. Why? Because it's 35-0, and we're on the phones, and literally, I could tell the way we're playing defense. They're going to 100 if we don't slow down offensively.
So your radical change against UNLV was to play
Just run the ball. We put out in 2-back. Have you seen us in 2-back? Have you seen us in 3 tight end sets ever? Ever since I've been here? We put that in to save ourselves defensively because we were not getting off blocks anywhere across the board. We got to get that fixed this week. We're not playing a Division I program with 85 scholarships this week. We're playing another Big Sky team that has the same situation that we do pretty much academically, socially, and athletically. So it's a fairer matchup. And I don't think that they can racehorse away from us. However, in 12, what was the score in 12? So we got. I'm real conscious of where we're at defensively, especially with our overall health and our overall depth. I'm real conscious of that, and it's having a dramatic impact on how we call our offense. You know, and some of our offensive guys are frustrated because they don't see us going racehorse like, hey, it ain't up to you, it's up to me. So just be quiet, play your position, and get going.